In Idaho's vast quiet, where lumber dreams bowed to sheriff chats, one 18-year-old traded saws for sirens, launching a 40-year rural reign from dispatcher desks to chief calls. From pre-patrol grinds to answering calls that still haunt officers in their dreams, Gary charts small-town soul. Action finds you, but home holds you. Emmett, Idaho Chief Gary Scheihing, Saga exposed with rural roots. This is his story. All right, can you introduce yourself for me, please?
Gary Scheihing.
Gary Scheihing, and tell me what your last position was with law enforcement.
Last position, I was called back to Emmett for 2 years to reorganize the department.
Okay, so you were the chief of police out there.
Yes.
So you had a really interesting career, and I think you're the quintessential person to talk to about what small-town Idaho law enforcement is all about. Tell me how you got involved in law enforcement.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad was a carpenter, owned a truss plant and kind of a lumberyard kind of thing. So I know my parents thought I was going to do that. And it just never really interested me. And Paul Bright was the sheriff of Ada County. And he was related to my mother some way. And I'd get to talking with him. I'd go see him occasionally and everything. And then Richard Hayes, who was the sheriff, was just a great guy. And I'd always listen to him and talk to him. And so I graduated from high school in May. I went to the sheriff and I says, hey, I want to get into law enforcement. Filled out no application. And he goes, okay. And about 2 weeks later, he called. And of course, this is for cell phone because I wasn't home. Dad answers the phone and says, hey, Dave, is that kid of yours who wants to be a cop still interested? And Dad says, yeah. He says, well, have him here on whatever day it was at what time. And that's how I started.
And what was your first position?
I was 18, so I couldn't patrol.
Okay.
Because back in the 70s, you remember, it was old enough to die, but not old enough to vote. Mm-hmm. So everybody changed it, and in Idaho, the legal age was 18, except for liquor laws, and the academy was 19.
Yeah, but you could be a police officer at 19, though.
Yeah.
So when you started, you were a dispatcher and a jailer?
Yeah, and that was kind of an interesting deal, because you had one dispatcher. You answered the phone, did everything. And if somebody brought in a prisoner, you signed off the air and went back and booked the prisoner and put him in the cell.
And how is that? As an 18-year-old kid, you know, you've graduated, assuming you graduated from high school, that's the job you've been put into. How is that first experience?
Scared the hell out of me a couple different times.
Yeah.
But the guy I worked for, Hayes, he was 70-some years old when I went to work for him. Toughest man I've ever seen and feared by everybody. And they just weren't going to mess with you because he knew they'd come back. I had a little trouble in this one cell one night, and I called him. I'll be right there. Came in, went back there, took care of the problem, and left. So, yeah. But, you know, you get over I think it makes you a better cop down the road because you learn to listen to people instead of getting in fights all the time.
Yeah, so how big is the department? Because, you know, I've come to do a lot of interviews with sheriff guys versus PD guys, and the guys that start off in the jail I think they really appreciate that experience.
Oh, you do.
So how big is the jail when you were there?
And we had 5 prisoners most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
so you had a lot of personal interaction with these guys.
All the time. And I think the total department couldn't have been 20. I mean, you had 5 patrolmen, you had a civil deputy, and you had a secretary, and that was it. So 20 people probably.
Okay. So fair to say you started when you were 18, but you actually became a police officer at 19 years old. You go to the academy, and at the time, how long is the academy?
4 weeks, I believe.
4 weeks. And so in a month period of time, which I think is incredibly short, what are they teaching you back then?
Law. They did a lot of law stuff, which was good. We did driving, you know, kind of really a micro of everything they do now, but it was a day instead of a week. And with me, my brother and I got killed in the middle of it, so I was gone from that for a week.
That's right. Can you tell that story and what happened?
with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
My father-in-law owned a ranch in Donnelly, Idaho, and I think Jason was 17, and he'd got a job at night, bussing tables at one of the restaurants, coming home, 1 o'clock in the morning, probably fell asleep and rolled his car.
Yeah, and the guys kind of rallied around you, right?
Oh yeah, they bought me an airline ticket to fly home.
And who gave you the ride to the airport?
Well, that's an interesting story too. You know, I get in the car and Bob, Stroberg, I can't remember what his dad's name was, but I get in the car and it's Eric Stroberg, who later I will work for, as he is a sergeant, and his dad drove me to the airport.
Yeah. So a little kid, and basically later on you end up working for him.
Yeah.
Wow. Before you go to work for, and I don't want to say go to work, but when Fruitland PD, they all get fired. So the Fruitland Police Department all gets fired. You go over there on temporary duty as a patrol officer. Have you already started with Payette?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I get up one morning, the sheriff calls me and says, Fruitland got fired last night, except for one guy. He says, that's where you're going at 5 o'clock. Okay. That's where I went.
how long did you cover for that department?
You know, it was probably about a week.
And then they just rehired a whole bunch of people?
Yeah, and I can't remember. They had some reserves, and they hired some of our, you know, how that works in departments, but, you know, they picked up a few people here and there, so, yeah.
When you're 19 years old and you start with Payette, you know, some people start when they're 21. So do you think what's your take on that? Do you think you had enough life experience at 19?
Hell no. No. You know, when I look at it now, and I see cops today the same way, young cops, they want to be a cop so bad. And the sheriff calls you, you never even fill an application, calls you and tells you to go to work. Okay, let's go to work. It was, thinking back on it, it was a stupid thing to do. But we all do a lot of stupid things, so.
Your department isn't that big. Do you have an FTO program when you start?
No, because I worked in the jail, I rode a lot with officers. So at that time, the one guy that was kind of the command structure, there wasn't any. The sheriff, chief deputy. There was no sergeants or anything like that. But the guy that kind of headed up the patrol thing, he's the one that told me, you're going to be patrolman. So that's how it worked out. There was no FTO.
When you're finally on your own in a patrol car at 19, what's going through your head? You scared?
Oh, I think you are, yeah. I think if you'd asked me then, I said, hell no. But yeah, I was scared. There was things that I worried about. The interesting thing of it is you plan things better. At least I did. If I was going to stop somebody, I would make sure I knew where I was stopping them. And the weird thing is you had no handheld radios or no phones. So you kind of like to stop somebody close to somebody's house you might know in case it goes bad. You can run to their house and use the phone. You know, those are the things you look at.
Life lessons learned on patrol. Why do you carry a extra key in your wallet?
I did that, yeah. Stopped the car in Fruitland. Good stop. Proud of myself. The guy fessed right up to what he did. Go back, I can't get in my friggin' car. So I had to go out and give him everything, you know. So here you are. I have a nice day. And then so I had to find a phone to call dispatch, to call the acting chief of police to bring me another key for my car.
Give you any grief when they showed up?
Oh, no.
Really?
Yeah. No, he was a good guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting back to when you're 19, you start on patrol, is there ever thought in your head, I might have to kill somebody?
Oh, I think so.
How do you, if you can go back in your head, how do you reconcile that? As being so young and having to maybe take somebody's life?
Well, I don't know if in there it said I did or not, but I did shoot a guy in 79.
Oh, yeah, you didn't say that, yeah.
Sometimes I don't write it. Sometimes I don't. put it down, things
Yeah.
like that. But no, I surrounded myself with good people. The other thing of it is I was born and raised Catholic, and the Catholic priest helps us through it. Another guy that was Catholic was shot, and him and I both went to the priest, and yeah, worked out all right.
Can you tell me about what happened in 79? How old are you when that happens?
I was over 21 then, I think.
Okay.
But him and his girlfriend robbed Circle K in Payette. And it was July 3rd of 79. Just before then, kids throw firecrackers in Circle K stores, a joke. He calls dispatch, hey, send the cops down here, something's going on. Cops show up front, pull up front. Clerk's with his hands up. Guy's got a gun on him. So they wouldn't negotiate. We tried talking to him. I was the closest to him. They come walking out, and she puts the gun to the clerk's head and pulls the trigger. And we had a plan. Me and the other officer, I says, I'll shoot him, you shoot her. That was the only plan we had. And that's the way it went down.
So she actually killed the clerk?
No, he's still alive.
Wow.
The bullet went through right here, just kicked all the nervings of the eye, come out over here, with the eye was laying on his thing. He can still see out of his left eye.
So did the girl and boy both get killed?
No, the girl lived. She did her time, and then she's out on the street.
Any residual from that? Did you have any bad feelings one way or another?
Don't care.
Yeah.
I was mad about it for a long time, and I thought, no use in being mad off it.
Well, why were you mad about it?
That I had to do that.
Oh.
It just pissed me off. Put me in that situation.
Yeah. But you go from Payette and you go to Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you go to Emmett?
There was no place to go in Payette.
In terms of upward mobility?
Upward mobility or anything like that.
What did you, at that point, did you have any goal about what you wanted to do?
I just wanted to work investigations, just detective stuff. And I did that at Payette County, kinda. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to Emmett, I was promised I could do that full time.
Why? What drew you to the investigative part of it?
Just always liked it.
Did you have any specific thing that you wanted to investigate, or what you didn't really care?
I didn't really care.
Okay.
So didn't really care.
So you get there. Emmett is, for the audience, Emmett's about 45 minutes from Boise. Mm-hmm. At that point, how big is Emmett?
Less than 6,000.
Okay, so how many?
Probably, let's say 4,000 or 5,000.
How many men on the department? People on the department?
Probably 12.
Okay. What kind of cases are you investigating? You get over there in
theft cases.
81.
Yeah, mainly theft cases, stuff like that.
Drugs? Are you dealing with
we
any
had
drugs
a lot of
back
drugs,
then?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But they had not done any drug cases before I got there. None. If they found some in the car, they might write a ticket, arrested or that kind of thing. But they had no kind of organized thing. They had no buy fund. They had nothing. And they kept no records on anything.
What's the drug of choice back then?
Weed.
Weed. Mm-hmm. So it was still weed. As you start to progress as a detective, I'm assuming they don't have a lot of policies in place.
No.
Are you kind of help writing the policies? Mm-hmm. And you get over there, and how old are you?
I went in 81, so it's... Didn't come here to do math.
Sorry.
Probably, 28,
okay.
26?
How do you develop those policies in a department that has no policies? How are you figuring it out?
I talked to Boise and I talked to Nampa. And that's where we got started.
Okay, so you're talking to the bigger departments around you.
Yeah. And they deal with the same people we do. It's just that they have good policies for that kind of stuff, and we needed them.
Yeah. Any surprises of in Emmett, when you go over there, it's a little bit bigger department. You're become a detective. Are there any surprises that are coming about?
Well, yeah, in the end, when I got the chief job, the other chief got fired because he wanted to leave to go do something else. I don't know. So I sat down and looking through the bills, and there's stuff there that we paid for that we didn't have. And I was told to forget it by a couple of politicians.
Really?
Yeah, until I found a couple of guns missing. And I didn't want that haunting me down the road. And then I found out he had 2 machine guns, which I don't know why you need those in Emmett, you know.
2 of the departments machine guns? Or?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from 81 to 84, you're a detective, and then at 84, you become the chief of police. Fairly young. Are you forced into that position? Do you want it? Why do you decide that I'm going to become the chief of police?
My personal feelings is there was a certain politician that thought that I just covered it all up. I think the ex-chief thought, oh, I just covered it all up. And, you know, if you do that, what do you do down the road when you investigate some gal that worked in an office and embezzled a bunch of money? What do you do then?
Right. Chief of police, as opposed to a sheriff where they get elected, you get appointed.
Every year.
So do you think that they appointed you because they thought that you weren't going to look into some of the corruption?
I'm sure that's why I was appointed. Especially after I look back on it now and talk to some people that I have known around there that were there then. And that's kind of their idea of it too.
What was their attitude when you didn't look the other way?
Well, the sheriff was a great guy, wonderful guy. His guys helped us out on this. And he says, I thought that I was going to have to put you on as a jailer because I thought you were going to get fired. But, you know, if they're going to fire you for that, then I don't want to be there.
But you must have done something right, because even if you're being appointed every year, I mean, you make it from 84 to 98 as the chief. I assume that they thought you were doing a good job?
Well, I think my biggest thing, it wasn't me, it's the guys who work for me. You know, he's deceased now, but Brad Newell, I don't know if you ever heard the name. His dad was Manny Newell, who was the head of state police for a while. The best cop I have ever worked with. And just a great guy. And then he run his team of kids, as we called it, the patrolman on night shift. He had his own little training rituals and everything. How can you beat it? If he come and told me somebody's got to go, no question, put it in writing, we'll get rid of him. Because that's the way he was. But he was just a wonderful guy.
Gary, if somebody's watching this channel and they're in, I don't know, small town Iowa, and they're faced with the situation that you got put in, you become a chief of police, what advice would you have them? I mean, they're a detective or they're on patrol and all of a sudden they become the chief. What advice do you have running a department, small town department?
Surround yourself with good people. Keep all the lines of communication open you can. Don't fight with the damn sheriff, because every chief of police seems to fight with the sheriff. And then, you know, get around, get to know all the state guys, DEA, FBI, all those guys. I didn't know them, a lot of them, but I could say, hey, Blaine, call so-and-so, or call the FBI or whatever, and he'd do it. Blaine Hyde was another one. He was a natural detective. He drove me freaking insane, because when I was the detective, I get on a lead or something, I wanted to go till it was done. He could put it away till the next day. I couldn't do that. And he did just as good a job, or better than I did. But he's there, he did it, and he did a good job.
So he could compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
Why did you leave in 98?
Well, the mayor and I didn't get along.
Okay.
He had just got elected. The mayor before him was a great guy, but he got elected because we built a city hall. And I took it upon myself, put the whole thing together, and we did it. We didn't do it through a bond. We had the federal judge approve it, or district judge approve it. And he said that was wrong. We shouldn't do it. We built a $1.5 million building for $800,000. And I was all the one that was caused of that. So I wasn't going to stay and fight him. And Bill Gordon, who's the chief in Meridian, says, come over and set up my dog program.
So how is that, Gary, going from a small department where you're in charge to now a large department where you're, I don't want to say back on in line, but you're not part of the admin over there. You're a dog handler now. You're in charge of the dog. Is that a blow to the ego? How is that hard? Is it hard to go from a position like that to kind of a line officer?
You know, I don't think I have a very big ego and never have had. But I just kind of checked my ego and just went to work to be a cop. The other thing of it is I had never been a patrolman very much. You know, in Payette, I become a detective fairly quick. I go to Emmett and have to do a little 2-week FTO program, and I'm a detective. I've never been a patrolman, in my eyes. So that's something that I wanted to master. So you get over there, you know, you just do your FTO program. And went through the whole FTO program, no problem. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. Some people could, but I don't think those people that have the ego that couldn't do it could never put in for the job. Because, you know, I'm applying for a patrolman job.
All right.
So.
Why dogs? Why'd you get involved with dogs?
Well, right after I became chief, Tony Scoro, who was the U.S. Marshal for a long time, and then he was also a sheriff for a long time, and he was on the city council, had sat on the parole commission for years. So he come to me and says, hey, you know, will you want to be on the parole commission? I says, yeah, but then it was a day a month. He says, I can take care of that with the city council if you'll do it. I says, okay. So I went over and interviewed with Cecil Andrus and got the job. And the city council thought it was great that we had an influence on the parole commission. It was a little hard because I seen those people that should have never got out getting out, but you just got to go along with it.
But why dogs? Did you have a love to work with dogs?
Oh, I meant to get that. When I was over there, I don't know how to put this kindly, I didn't want to sit with the rest of them and eat lunch and talk to them, the rest of the commissioners. So I'd go out to the inmates, sit in the hall and talk to them, and hear the guards would bring the dogs through. So I talked to Malcolm Beach, who, I don't know, he's retired now, but Malcolm was a good guy. He says, yeah, we'll train you a dog. We trained my first dog, Maddie, who was the best dope dog there ever was, if you ask me. And then I started training a few dogs here and there. I trained a dog for Payette, and just when I was working as chief, because they didn't seem to care, the city didn't. And it was good publicity for them.
But you ended up really having a love for these dogs. You started your own company for a long time, Scheihing Canine.
Yep.
And how many dogs do you think you trained?
Probably 250 in 20 years. And my wife did most of that, to be honest with you, you know. But no, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
And I got to intermingle with the police departments and people that I never other would have.
What was the hardest part of training a dog?
The stupid handler.
Because cops are notoriously the worst listeners.
They are. And some of them I had input on. You know, like the dog in Ada County, the first one, Steve Russell. Mm-hmm. I helped select him. He had Sadie, a great dog. But when after I retired, I trained a bunch of dogs for a company out of California, and they would sell them, and then I'd go do the handler scores for them. And you'd show up, you knew who the handler was the day you showed up. And sometimes we had a problem with that. So, but that's just part of the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you worked for Meridian a little bit, and then you're back as chief of police with Emmett.
Well, I retired in 07, 08 from Meridian. And then I don't say I really retired, because the week that I retired, or shortly after that, a deputy in Adams County was killed. So Rick Wiley, who retired from Nampa, I said, let's go up and work the summer for him. So we split his shift, and I'd go up for 2 days, and he'd go up for 2 days. He had a cabin up there, so he knew her around. And I was always doing stuff like that. I helped Payette County out. I went back and helped Emmett out a couple different times. So, yeah. But then they come to the mayor from Emmett, who is Gordon Petrie, who was the judge for a long time. He says, I need you to come back and just redo the department. Straighten them out, get some policies, and just that kind of stuff.
Because they knew you previously.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Got it. All right, let's start telling some stories, because
Okay.
you gave me a lot of good ones. This is going to be an entertaining episode. Tell me about the car chase with the wife and the with your wife bringing you lunch.
I had got sent to Fruitland, like I said, called it and said be there at a certain time, so I was there. And Fruitland doesn't look the way it did then, but right in the center of town, the highway went by and there was a big tree. And I sat on the tree, and you could run radar down the street. So she brought me lunch, and she was sitting there, and I was eating my lunch, and they had the radar up there. And coming southbound on 95, it had we had a radar, and I think it said something like 95. And I thought, oh, that's bullshit. But then it went to 96. So I said, get out of the car. And she said, why? I said, get out of the car. So she jumps out of the car. I take off and chase this guy for about 3 or 4 blocks. And we go into this little cul-de-sac, and he bails. And back then I was pretty fast. So I jump out. I'm right on his tail. He falls through the front door. I grab him. We go down on the ground. I fight him. I get handcuffs on him pretty easy, and I smell. Smells interesting. It's just pitch black. So I get him up, walk over, turn on the light, and he had a whole marijuana growing inside of his house that he ran to. And I asked him, I says, why? Well, I didn't think you guys could chase us. Well, we did.
What do you mean, chase you in the car?
Yeah.
He thought he was just going to get away from you.
Yeah,
guys.
he thought he was just going to drive away. Yeah. And he didn't chase, I didn't chase him, but 6 blocks. And he ran in the house.
That's interesting, because I would think in those days, you didn't mess with the cops. In these days, you're sitting in Seattle, they have no chase policies, whatever else, but certainly not in Idaho and ever.
You got to remember, though, that in the 70s, the hatred for cops is about the same as it is now. The only difference is now you can see it happen on TV as it happens. Then it was more of a spoken thing, and I think that's why it went away after a while.
Did you have that hatred in the state of Idaho, though?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that small communities would have really...
First time I ever had the window be rolled down that far on me was when I was working in Payette County. And it was a lady that I saw all the time. I says, give me your driver's license. Why? I says, because you ran a red light. Okay. She gives me your driver's license. Now give me your registration. Now give me your insurance. Well, I don't have any. Oh, roll that window down now. Because see, that was a misdemeanor at that time. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of the same thing then as it is now.
As you progress through your career in all these departments in Idaho, Idaho is a red state, a lot of guns out there. Was there ever a worry? I mean, you didn't work in any of these other, Washington or Oregon or whatever else, but did you ever worry about getting shot more, or knowing that everybody carries guns in Idaho?
No, I didn't worry about it at all because everybody carried a gun.
Right.
The shooting we were in that night, we had a neighbor standing out in his front yard with 30-30 waiting in case it went bad. Now, at first you kind of think, oh shit, and then you think, yeah, that's what we want.
But that's what I guess that was my whole question about it before is, to me, at least being in Idaho for the last 25 years plus, is the community in general, I think, likes law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that's what that guy, that neighbor with the 30-30 going, hey, if things go bad, I'm going to help these guys.
Yeah.
That's what I envisioned.
Yeah.
But there wasn't. I mean, there was obviously this undercurrent of police hatred even back then in the 70s.
Well, and you had kind of a, now we have a lot of people from Idaho, from California pouring in here. And then we had a lot of them too. They're not necessarily from California, but pouring into the state. Just because there wasn't much here, it was cheap ground. So.
Yeah. Okay, can you tell me the story about working narcotics with the person that was living in Ontario?
Oh, that was, yeah. When I was working in Fayette County, I was the youngest guy, so I got tasked with a lot of things in narcotics and stuff like that. And we got along with Ontario PD great. So the guy, the one Ontario guy calls me and says, hey, I got an informant that'll introduce you to a guy. I says, okay. So we went over there. You'll be interested in this from DEA. We had no plan. I was going in and going to buy the dope, and that was it. So we knew how much he had. And so I knocked on the door, went in, started talking to him. And I think he had the dope then. He just didn't want to do it there. Talking a little bit, and he hands me a .22 rifle. He says, here, you can have this. I says, where'd you get this? Oh, I stole it out behind the Stockman Club. Oh, I got something else for you, too. He goes in the back and brings me out a Nissa Police Sergeant's coat that had the badge on it that he had stole out of a Nissa police officer's car that was sitting by a fire. So we get that all done, and I come out and meet with the two officers, and I says, we did have one plan. If he wanted to go meet us someplace, it was behind taco time at noon. And I didn't understand why at first, but it comes later. So we get it all arranged, and we're all set up to do it. So I drive up to taco time, and then I realize the reason why the officers want to do it here, because the school gets out. And it'll be a little show for some school kids. So I give him the money. He give me the dope. We arrested him. That was it. But I got to watching, and the guy that we had also been working with sitting over watching us do it too. So we knew who the dope had came from. Mm. And Ontario went and picked him up a little while later, and he fessed up the whole thing. So, yeah.
How do you think when you do something like that? I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned you did it in front of those, the school kids. Uh-huh. When you do something in a small community, do you think something like that must have a bigger impact than if you do something in a larger city?
Oh, I think it did. I think it did there. Yeah.
What was your philosophy in terms of, either as an officer, chief of police, what was your philosophy about kind of educating the public, letting them know what was going on?
Oh, we always did, yeah. The other thing that got me in small departments, and this is an interesting story, it's not in there. We were told that one of our biggest dope dealers had sent this lower guy to Modesto, California to pick up, I don't remember how many pounds was there of marijuana. So, we figure out where he lives, and they made these cheap-ass apartments, 2 duplexes that face each other, and there's a common area in the middle. I get to looking around there, and the retired postal inspector lives in one apartment. So I went over there with pictures and everything. Okay, he says, well, give me something to do. Okay, so about a week later, he calls me, hey, you need to go tell that kid to give you the marijuana. So we go down there, and in fact, Blaine Heidenbrand was with me. We knock on the door. We know him. His dad works for the city. And he does that old felony, pull the door open and slide out. So I told him, I says, dude, we know you got the marijuana. We know where you went and got it and everything. So he just opens the door. So the plan was that Brad and I'd clear the back of the house and Blaine would stay in the front with him. So we go out, we clear the back of the house and come out and a pile of marijuana sitting on the coffee table. Okay, so, and he's on probation too, that's the other thing. So we get the PO officer involved and he says, you're going to call that guy and tell him to come get the weed. So he calls him and he gives him a little flack. And I just hung up the phone on him, just call him back in a little bit. Calls him back. I'll meet you back at your mother's place in 20 minutes. Perfect. So I didn't know it at the time, but Judge Petrie's house butted up to the alley. But he pulls up in the alley, just like Miami Vice, you know. We come in from one angle. As soon as he opens the trunk and throws a bag in, we grab him and had him. And it was all because of the community. I mean, you know, I couldn't afford to set anybody on it. But it's poor old guy. And you go down there to the postal inspector and he's smoking like crazy, you know. So I'm thinking, I hope he lives long enough to do this. But he did us a great job.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Too many cops don't want to tell anybody anything. And that's the wrong thing to do in a small department. You can tell them enough that they'll help you out. That's why you don't want to screw too many over, so yeah.
Yeah, because I'm assuming it really makes a big difference in a small community. If you're treating people well, they're much more likely to come forward and help you and assist in one way or another.
There's two places to get in good with people. Go to coffee with them in the morning. And I think that's kind of changed now with all the coffee shops and everything. But still, I can show you right where to go in Emmett today. And go down and have lunch at Senior Citizens. You're going to have them tell you about the crazy guy that lives next door, but maybe one of the times the crazy guy is going to do something. And the good thing about that too is preferably an old community, old people living there, a lot of old mill guys, and you have one of them die. If you have kind of a bunch of older the people you can talk to, you can call them and say, where's his kid? Who's his kid? And work on, you know, notifying him and taking care of it that way without raising a big fuss about anything else. And that goes along with, too, I don't know if I put it down there or not. We had one morning we had a fire call, and it's cold like this, only there's a little snow on the ground. And a car had been caught on fire. Well, this old lady, she's going to go to the store. She takes a heater from in her house and sets it in the front of her car in the seat and catches it on fire. She comes to my office and crying because she has no money now. Burn up her purse. All her Social Security check and everything was there. So I went down to the coffee clutch and I says, this old lady has got trouble. Told them the whole story. And there was one guy there that was great about it. He says, well, why don't you just go do your thing? We'll take care of this. She come in 3 days later because they give her $85 too much and give her a new car. Not a new car. But it's just because the community got involved with it and we told them about it and they did it.
Yeah.
But when she brought the $85 and I thought, go buy some. No, she says, I need to donate this to somebody. I can't, she give it to Senior Citizens or something, but I thought, yeah.
Tell me about the first suicide you investigated.
First suicide I investigated was my best friend's dad. And he wasn't a nice man, but he was my best friend's dad. And it wasn't easy. Problem of it is, I would have called somebody, but there was nobody to call to come and help. Because in Payette County back then, if you worked nights, you called for help and there wasn't a guy on in Payette City, they had to call somebody out of bed. And it wasn't good, but you know, you get through it.
How do you work a case knowing the victim as closely as you did, or not the victim, but the associate, the family member as close as you did?
This is how I did that. I did a lot of them this way. I collect all the evidence. And then I go sit down with the sheriff the next day and say, how do I do this? What do I do? Did I do anything wrong? How do we do it better? Fix it. And he was all about that. All about that.
But it was interesting because, your friend gave you a statement. Mm-hmm. He wasn't sad to see him go.
No.
Because you learned later on that this guy was actually beating on your friend and
his
mother. Mom too.
Yeah. It was just tough. But you know what? You got to walk real thin wire there because you don't want to be on one side or the other.
Yeah. Tell me about this is a story that when I hear these types of stories, I'm glad I was never on patrol. Mm-hmm. But tell me about the story of the woman and the daughter and the kid in the back.
It was Fair Week in Payette County, which is a big deal. And the fair is in New Plymouth. And, I don't even know why she was in Payette. But a lady was in Payette. Her and her daughter were in the car, and the little boy, thank God, was asleep in the back seat. And they come around a corner between New Plymouth and Payette, and a drunk driver was in their road and hit them head on. Took the hood from the car, which they later sued Chevrolet and got money out of it, went through and decapitated the mother and the daughter. Little boy, he's still alive. I see him every now and then. But I'll never forget, my partner just grabbed a little kid and running over the embankment because there was brains and blood and shit everywhere. And the guy got 6 months in jail for it too.
6 months in jail, and then he complained to you guys because he didn't just do 6 months. I think he got 6 months where he had to just come in during the weekend.
Yeah.
And then what was his complaint?
I don't remember now. Remind me there.
It was that he wouldn't have certain type of magazines.
Oh yeah, he was wanting these Playboy magazines.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, he couldn't bring in his Playboy magazines into the jail. 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, the sheriff was furious, and it was a district court judge that sentenced him. So
was that a light sentence for that time?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Very
so
light.
why do you think?
I really don't know. Back then it made me mad, so I'm done with it, Mm-hmm. But I don't really know.
Okay, I'm curious about this, Gary. How do you deal with rolling up on a scene like that? I mean, that's just horrific.
You got a job to do, you go do it. It's a job. And the reason why I use this is what firemen are taught. It's a job, you go do it. And then fire has a lot better ways of mending you than law enforcement does.
In what way?
They talk about it, they counsel about it and everything like that. But you got all these guys living in the station, Mm-hmm. I leave there, I go back to the station, do my report, and I'm done. But it's got to be, it's a lot of where you're at and what your frame of mind is. If you just have a kid and a kid gets killed, it's going to get you. Believe you me, it's going to get you. Mm. But I don't know. It's tough. I only have a few things that wake me up at night. And,
Did you, back then, this is kind of before people were into fitness and everything mm-hmm. else, was working out a part of relieving the stress? So how did you relieve the stress?
Well, my dad had a lumber company, so I worked a lot, but drank. Everybody drank a lot more then than they do now. Mm-hmm. I don't drink anymore, so yeah.
It's interesting you just mentioned that firemen get to come back from a incident mm-hmm. and they get to talk about it.
Yep.
And police officers really don't. They come back and, everybody, it's kind of a culture of not wanting to talk about it more.
Exactly. Well, and the thing of it is, in the fire thing, they trust each other a lot more than they do in police work.
Why do you think that?
Because they're sleeping in the same building. They're seeing each other all the time. My graveyard team, they were a great bunch of guys, but I seen them when I came to work, and usually when I went home, and maybe a couple times through the night, it calls. You don't build a bond with them when you do that. And I talked to a lot of firemen about this, and I went out on a call at Emmett. I had Meridian that really got me for a little bit. We went out on the freeway at Linder Road. A semi going down the road, a guy going down the road with his girlfriend on a Harley, and he's got one of those little suction type seats on the back. He goes past the drivers, and the wind sucks her between the drivers. And my question was, where is she? And then I get to looking, she's everywhere. My only saving grace was they said, well, there's the guy that was driving the Harley, and he was sitting about 100 yards off the road. So I went after him. Got in a little chase. We got him down in Eagle and had a little standoff, but got him and his dope. But, that was, and the smell was just, you smell human flesh when it's cut or burned or something like that. But when it's ground up like that, it's a whole different smell. Not a good one.
Any remorse from that guy at all?
None.
He just figured it was cost of she was there.
Yeah.
Over the course of your career, did things, you start in the 70s and you go all the way through the 2000s, did things get better in terms of counseling and dealing with things for police officers?
The problem with police officers, they usually wait till it's happened. There's nothing done prior to that. Firemen, I go back to them, they talk about stuff before they go out. I had an old fireman from Meridian, and he said, we train something every day. He says, we'll talk about something that happened. He says, the older guys will go by a building and say, yeah, I remember when that was on fire. We had to do this, had to do that. And he says, that's a good training for those guys. We don't do that in police work. At least not here.
Why do you think that we don't?
It's not convenient, is a lot of what I think. Fire, that's their culture. Our culture is you don't talk about anything until you get in trouble.
Do you think that improved over the years, though, or you think it just kind of stayed the same where...
What has improved it, I think, is the level of education in police officers before you hire them. You got a guy that's got a 4-year degree. He isn't going to be any better cop, maybe, than the guy that just got out of school. But he's got a lot of... He's learned a lot by just getting up and going to college every day. And he's become a better person. I shouldn't say a better person, but makes himself accountable for things. That's the whole problem with everything going on today. There's no accountability on our young people. None of them are accountable.
Yeah. All right, tell me the story about the fire and the Camaro.
Yeah, that was another one that in Piatt County on Highway 52, there's a railroad bridge. And it goes out, the railroad goes underneath and it goes over top like this. And so I was the only deputy on again. And I get a call that there's a fatality accident on this. They don't call them that, an overpass. They call them something else. But I said, okay. So I go out there, and there's this pickup that's rolled down the hill for a ways on fire with what's left of a human being in it. And then there's 2 girls up on top that they can't get out because they have both broken femurs. So we had to block the road, so the farmer blocked it with one of his trailers on one end, and the other gun we had a fireman block it. But so then I get to searching the girl's car and found a bag of weed. And I'm thinking, God, these people don't need this problem right now. So I drove down, throwed it in the river. And then I got to thinking about it. Oh, shit. So I go see the sheriff. And he says, is that the right thing to do? I says, well, I think so. What do you think? He says, yep, the right thing to do. But I don't know. It bugged me for a while after that. And now I feel kind of proud of it, to be honest with you.
I thought it was interesting. He told you, the quote that he told you was, "You have to be a good person to be a great cop."
Oh, yeah. And he preached that all the time. If you aren't a good person and an honest person, he was about honesty too, then you're in trouble.
How about death notices, having to give death notices to people that you knew?
Yeah, well, see, when you grow up in New Plymouth, you know everybody.
Right.
And actually, you probably know most of the people in Payette County. But Jim County had a fatality accident one day, and it was within, I could see it from the Payette County border, so I drove over there, and it was a kid I knew. Knew him. His dad was my godfather in the Catholic Church, sat in the same pew of them for years. Knew him. Had to drive over and tell him, and it really upset him. Years later, I found out that his daughter, or the victim's sister, every time she seen one of those police cars, she got upset for a good many years because I parked right in front of their house. You think about that little shit like that upset her that long. And maybe she just was that way, but yeah.
How about the burglary of the liquor store in New Plymouth?
Oh, that was a good one. I'll tell you, you know what? And that was a pretty crafty burglary. The liquor store, they had 10-foot windows, and the top 2 foot were glass. And then it was wood on down. And they stacked the bottles in there so you could see them through the glass. So my brother-in-law and his little buddies go down and break it out and take the liquor and take off with it. Some way I found out where they had taken it, and I got it. And then I thought, my father-in-law's going to kill him. And so in the back room there, I was holding him in the back room, and so I just opened the door. My father-in-law basically knocked me out of the road, went in and slammed the door, and they had a discussion. Don't know what was said, don't care to know. But yeah.
Yeah, because you were initially worried that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And then
I'd only been married less than a year.
Yeah, but you guys ended up becoming pretty good friends.
Oh, yeah.
Father-in-law.
He's a great guy.
Tell me about the two farmers who found the shooting victim.
Oh, yeah. It was in Washaw. There's an area they call Washaw in Payette County. It's down by the river. Goes down to the river. And these two individuals, and you talk about, the scum of the earth are the ones that we deal with. This one of them was a anesthesiologist, the DOA gun. So the kid shot him, rolled him out of the car, drove off. The farmers load him up in the back of their pickup because he was bleeding and haul him to the hospital. And I get to the hospital, and I'd seen them together, riding in this car. I knew who he was. We had dealt with the kid before. So I called Patrolman Ziegler at the Weiser Police Department because I knew him. I says, hey, if this kid comes back around, would you pick him up and just hold on to him for us? Because we're going to have to talk to him. Told him the whole story. So Ziegler finds him, pats him down, puts him in the back of the police car, takes him down to the station. And the kid was going to tell him. Kid starts telling him right away. And Ziegler asks, where's the gun? And he reaches down inside the 3 pairs of pants and pulls the gun out and lays it on the interview table. Colt Woodsman, not a small gun. But yeah, we all learned a little lesson that day.
Yeah, I can't even imagine a video, watching that whole thing. That he must have just been horrified when he pulled out that gun.
He was a great cop. I mean, he patted him down. If he said he patted him down, it's good enough for me. But he was a great cop. Yeah. He left and went to work in California someplace as a police officer.
But didn't he get so upset did he go outside and threw up, right?
Oh, yeah, he got it. Yeah. So walked around for a while. Went home that night, didn't work the rest of his shift. But after that, he was all right. And then and maybe that's the reason why he left. But I wouldn't want to go to California when
Yeah.
But anyway, the kid's been in prison the rest of his life, not for this, for different things. Because he's he gets sentenced, the judge likes him. You'd like him if he sat here and talked to him. You'd thought he was a great kid. But he just kept going back and back.
So he's in prison now?
I don't know if he still is now or not.
But he just kept getting in trouble.
Yeah, he was always in trouble.
It's interesting because of where you worked. You're right on the Idaho-Oregon border. And I don't know if this happened a lot, but can you tell me about the high-speed chase where the guy, basically OSP had to go, yeah, it's all yours.
Yeah. I had come on that night, and I think I was on graveyards. I hadn't been out very long. They called in and said that OSP's chasing a guy into Idaho, into Fruitland. And I was coming up 95, and I seen the last OSP car go by. There's a joke there, too, but I'll have to tell you later. But I jump in behind him, and I said, slow down, because that's a 90-degree corner. And they did, and the car over into the river. So we get there, we can't find him. Look everywhere for him. They wanted to call out search and rescue, and the sheriff says, no, we're not going to find search and rescue for him. So we clear several hours later. Well, what had happened was that car had landed in a tree, and he tells me, he says, that tree just slipped me right in the water. And then he gets out, gets over, and it isn't the Payette River isn't any deep that time of the year, about that deep, walks over the side, breaks into a house on some people that go south in the winter, rolled up in a rug and slept all night. So he gets out, he comes walking out there, the sheriff's standing there, and we realize what happened. The sheriff says, call the ambulance, we got to get him to a hospital. And he's saying, why? Well, they're going to take him to the hospital. They get him in the ambulance, haul him to the hospital. Well, the hospital was in Oregon, so we didn't have to do extradition or anything for him. We referred to that as Snake River extradition, but yeah.
That's a smart move.
Yeah,
on that
it took
sheriff.
me a minute to think. That's wonderful. Yeah, I thought, why do you want to get this guy treated? Yeah.
So unlike the horrific stories, sometimes you guys have funny stories.
Oh hell yeah.
Tell me about the girl saying that her mom is getting hurt.
Oh yeah. So, and I don't remember who was working for Fruitland. And you got to remember that with Payette, and we handled all the calls in New Plymouth, but Payette and Fruitland had one guy on, and we would back them up. So we get called for Fruitland one night, and I'm sure the guy that was there could tell the story a lot better than me, because he's a lot better storyteller in that things. But she had called dispatch and says this little girl, somebody's broke into the house, and they're hurting mom. And dispatch was great. They did a good job. They get information out of her and everything. Can't really put where she's at, but she's in a different room. And so we get there. Little girl's there. First thing we do is snatch her up, take her to the neighbors. We go back in, clearing the house, and we hear the woman. We get lined up on the door and kick in the door. And Dad had been gone for a long time. And Dad had came home. And they were just getting reunited. So yeah.
What are their faces like when you bust down that door?
Oh yeah, it was. Well, first of all, what the hell are you people doing here? Well, your daughter called, and she did. The daughter was. We kept telling her the daughter was right of what she did, but yeah, it was crazy.
Tell me about the LSD dealer out of Vegas, Brother Speed motorcycle gang.
Oh yeah. We had a lot of stuff. Most of our chemical stuff come out of Vegas, and just for this whole area. So this guy, he goes to Vegas. I got to back out. First of all, okay, I'm confused here a little bit, but he has a Harley Davidson. He goes across the bridge at Payette and Vetter Flat, wrecks it. Now we all know him, and he's an ass. So I get there, and we're looking at him and everything. He says, I can't feel my leg. And I look over, and it's hanging in the fence. I says, I don't know how it feels, but I know where it's at. But then, all we did was then he had a place to hide his LSD and all of his dope.
Okay, wait a minute. So that initial accident that you come across, does he actually get his real leg cut off, or is that fake? Okay, so that's a real leg.
That's a real leg cut off right there.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And he says, I don't know how it feels. That's why I said, I don't know how it feels, but I know where it's at.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And so then he gets him prosthetic, and so that was the thing. Two ways you wanted to search him, you took the prosthetic off. You didn't want him to run from you, you took his prosthetic off, because he could run, even with that prosthetic on. I'll never forget, it was one of the ISP guys. I pulled up behind him, and he's standing there doing that, I'm getting ready to run look. I says, he's going to run. He can't run. Oh, shit, where'd he go? We were all looking for him. But we found him anyway, but yeah. Yeah.
And you end up getting him later. He's hidden the dope in his fake leg now.
Yep, all the time. And I see him all the time now. I'm talking to him about it. It's kind of a funny deal.
Oh, he's still around then.
Oh, he's doing real good now, yeah.
So he was actually part of Brother Speed, though?
He was.
Wow.
Yeah. Wasn't very far out. And it wasn't, you got to remember, in the 70s, Brother Speed wasn't much of a thing. It was more of a, you say that instead of the Hells Angels.
Right.
Yeah. They didn't have any other affiliation or anything like that. I know that because my cousin that lived next to me was Brother Speed. So, yeah.
I thought this was an interesting story that you brought up. Tell me about essentially doing internal investigations. I don't know if you're doing it on your own department or, other, but there weren't a whole lot of, like, in this day and age, when you have an internal investigation, you normally call in Idaho State Police, right? Tell me about the burglaries involving that sergeant.
I was a detective, and we were working a bunch of burglaries. Channel lock burglars, what we call them. Twist the front door handle off the channel locks. Easy way to get in. No evidence, and the weirdest shit was taken, like clock radios, just little stuff, weird stuff was taken. No money was taken, and I think we probably had 5 of them we were trying to figure out between New Plymouth and Fruitland, and they always, wherever it happened, if we staked it out, he didn't go there. And I realized later that shows you it's probably 1 year's. But so one night, I'm coming home. I don't even remember what I was working or anything. And I look over at this beet cutting place, and there sits the Payette County squad car, and the door's open. I didn't think anything about it. Went home, and it hit me. So I called dispatch. I says, is so-and-so checked out the meat place tonight? No, he didn't check out anywhere. He said he was in South County all night, which that was south of Fruitland. Okay. So it hit me. I called my partner. I says, what do you think? And he says, let's write a warrant and see if the judge will sign it. And he did. So we show up at this guy's house, and his wife's there. He was asleep. And that worried me because I thought he might go off. We get him out, and we open up the freezer, and here's meat from the meat packing place. Then we start going down the list and finding this stuff everywhere. This guy I trusted. I thought he was a hell of a good guy. But there was another side to him.
Why did he do it? Did he ever say?
He would never say.
Huh. So obviously gets arrested, gets fired and
everything, and drives taxi after that for a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know, it was just one of those things that all at once it hit you. Holy crap,
Yeah. Yeah. All right, tell me about the pharmacist, the arsonist.
So that was another one the sheriff saved my butt on in a lot of ways. So the pharmacy in Payette, I don't remember the guy's name. He was also on the city council. He was the fire commissioner, whatever that meant. So one night they called me, and in fact, the lieutenant calls me and says, hey, the pharmacy's on fire in Payette, and since he's on the city council, we're going to have to investigate it. I said, okay. So I get over there, and the only thing that's really on fire is the cabinets in his office. Not really anything else. And some of the cabinets are tipped, And so I come back down, and I says, we need to call the sheriff. So the sheriff comes over, so I tell him everything I got. Well, let's go take a little walk. So we go inside. Well, first off, we had to kick a dozen firemen out, which, yeah. And the sheriff walks behind the counter, and here's the kathunk. He reaches down, pulls back a carpet, then pulls open a trap door, and the fire started. It wasn't any problem putting it out. And, of course, immediately, it's got to be the guy that owns the store. So I grab him, we talk to him. Nope. Doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's offended immediately. So I book him anyway. Next day he wants to talk to me. I'm thinking, oh God, you're going to get my ass chewed. Yeah, I did it. He'd been selling pills. And this is before that was a big deal. Yeah. But it was just a little bit of luck, and I'd walk through there 20 times that night, never heard it, but the old man did.
Last story. Tell me about the corrupt probation officer.
Yeah. So we had this old boy that was drunk all the friggin' time. You couldn't trust a word he'd say. Just a real, I don't even know how to describe him. He's drunk all the time, little scrawny guy. So they put him, well, the first part of that is, the judge puts him in jail, but we have to give him a pint of whiskey every day or he'll die. So I go to the liquor store every day in uniform and buy a pint of whiskey.
Seriously?
And the guy from the liquor store talked to my dad, wanted to know if he thought I had a drinking problem. Which, it makes you mad, but on the other side, okay, yeah. So the one day we got him in there, and I don't even remember why he was in there. And he tells my partner, F you guys, I'm getting my driver's license back next week. I'll drive any goddamn place I want, and all this kind of stuff. And we're thinking, how is he getting his driver's license back? So, and I don't remember what female, the one law clerk come in. I said, just go in there and sweet talk him and ask him how he's getting his driver's license back. And she did. He says, I give the probation officer $2,500 and I'll have a driver's license. And so we throwed him in jail again because we didn't want him to talk to her. So we allowed him to make her one call. And she says, meet me back at the courthouse and I'll have your driver's license and give us a time and a date. So the only place to see it was from the U.S. District Court office. I mean, the state district office. And Judge Newhouse is the judge. You might want to cut that out later on. That's up to you. So we're standing there, and the judge is standing there. We got to tell him, And we watch out there, and he sees the hand-to-hand between them. And we arrest her then.
Is it Judge, in your notes you had Judge Lodge?
Fast Eddie Lodge, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said new. Did you say new?
Did I say new? It's Lodge.
Yeah.
Fast Eddie Lodge.
Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting as you had sent me that story because Lodge I dealt with a lot as a federal judge. He was a really
stand-up guy.
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy.
Yeah. He my father-in-law owned a ranch in Donley, and he had the property next to us, so I know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, you see this, and
so he got madder than hell. We arrest her and him. But yeah, and then I just needed the money. Well, why the hell did you pick on Tillman the lines?
Yeah.
Everybody knew he would never get his driver's license back.
But Judge Lodge actually didn't he call her in? He was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
He's a good guy. I don't know if you guys called him Fast Eddie or not. That's what we called him.
No. We would never. I mean, federal judges are. you very rarely mess with those guys.
Yeah.
You're very respectful to those guys.
But you weren't late for court.
No.
Not with him.
No, and if I'm going to get this story messed up, but I read a book. Lodge was the judge that handled that.
They killed the Fish and Game officers.
Yeah. Very, very interesting story. Yeah. I always wanted to talk to Judge Lodge about that.
Yeah. So have a lot of time because he'll talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, so you had alluded to this when you were talking about the chase with OSP. You said you had a funny story. Do you remember what that was?
We could never get an OSP officer to come and help us because there wasn't any on, but there was 4 on that night.
Well, it's the fun part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Tell me this. How did law enforcement affect your family?
Well, I got the best wife there is. We've been married for over 50 years.
Okay, let me ask you this. At what point in your law enforcement career did you guys get married? Was it in the very beginning? Was it
very beginning?
When you were 19?
I might have been 18.
Wow, so she has seen it all.
We were in high school together and we got married. And the key to that is some things don't tell them. There's some things that you don't need to tell them. It's a cop thing. And then there's some things you do need to tell them. If something's upsetting you or pissing you off, tell them.
That was a question I was going to ask you because we talked about this before we started recording. One of my other interviews is with Tracy, who's the chief of police from Meridian right now, and he is of firm belief that he has an open relationship with his wife, and he tells her everything, and he thinks that's the way to go. And I've talked to other people, and they're like, "You don't tell your wife jack." So you're kind of right in the middle, you think?
Well, I guess. If you're going to tell them, if you were in a regular job and you're going to tell them everything that you and your people talked about that you worked with and everything, you better tell them that. But if you guys said some guy's brain splattered all over the highway, why? Why? Because they will immediately start thinking how that's getting you. But my wife, I can tell her anything. But yeah.
Do you think it would have made a difference if you would have gotten married 5 years, 10 years later, where she didn't really know what to expect? You got married from the very beginning, and she kind of understood, right?
Yep. Well, and the other thing too is, and I don't know, back then we as cops did everything together. We had picnics together. We had where we all showed up. I don't see that happening in law enforcement like it used to. Maybe once or twice a year, but we were always. So-and-so moves. Of course, there was only so many in the department. Everybody went and helped him do it. So I think that gets their mind of what you're thinking a lot better. I guess I'll have to ask her that. I don't know.
When you look back on when you started your career till now, did law enforcement affect the way that you see people?
Well, it only affects me the way I see people is what I look for when they're there. What they're wearing, are they carrying a gun, are they, ganged up, or that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't try to make any thoughts or anything on anybody about where they live or who they live with or anything like that, because that'll usually get you in trouble.
But do you think you became jaded over the course of your career?
I did for a while.
And then once you retired, do you think it slowly went away, got better?
No, it was a long time before I retired that it got better.
Before you retired?
Yeah. With me, when I was chief, that's a whole different, and then I went to Meridian was a cop. It's a whole different way of handling things and doing things. And that's what gets guys that want to be chief, he's a patrolman one day and chief the next, in trouble. Because they try to handle it the same, but it isn't. You got to be, the old thing, the boss comes and has one beer at your party and goes home. That's something that, I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Why?
Well, you'll have some of them that'll tell other guys that you said something you didn't, because they want to make everybody think they know it more than they do. Mm-hmm. And if you keep it all the same, who cares?
So was it with Meridian that you started to have this change of attitude?
Yeah.
Why? Why Meridian and not?
Because I wasn't worried about what anybody thought. And I'm talking about political. I'm not talking about a bad guy or a good guy or whatever.
No, that's so that's my question though. Do a lot of guys that I talk to go, yeah, even now I'll go into a restaurant, my back will be to the, I face the door, all that other stuff. Do you still do that?
Yeah. That's only smart. I mean, I'm sorry, that's only smart in this day and age. Is to do those things.
Totally get it. But do you
I don't worry about it.
Do you view people negatively? Do you think you view people more negatively than Joe Schmo now?
No.
Okay.
I think it's less than I think it was when I was in. The only thing is, I always, if somebody walked in the door, if I knew them, that was a little different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think cops get into this. I got to protect myself. I've got to carry 4 guns and a knife and all this kind of stuff. Although I carry 2 guns and a knife, but they get into that way too much. I spend a lot of time at a gun store now, a friend of mine, and I see the young cops coming in. Well, how can I conceal this, or why do you want to conceal that? I don't know. But when I worked, I carried 2 guns. Firm believer in it.
When you look back on your career, would you have done anything differently?
Not a thing.
Oh, there's no hesitation there.
I had a great career. How could you be, I did everything in law enforcement except ride a motor and a horse. And I don't like motorcycles, and horses don't like me. So that's it.
Any advice for anybody watching this who wants to be a police officer? Do you have any advice for them?
Education. It's a big thing. And I think now they really got to look at technology. I mean, you got to educate yourself in technology, because I don't know shit. But I see these cops, they're doing all this work on the computer to catch this guy, find this guy and everything. And that's what it's going to take. You're going to find that tests going into law enforcement eventually is going to be all about that.
Interesting.
When I started, the first car I had was a 69 Impala that had a light bar on it and a radio. No siren. The second car that I was assigned had a light bar, a siren, and a radio. And that was it. No cage, no nothing.
How far in your career did you actually have an MDT, the computer in
When I came to Meridian.
That was the first time?
First time.
I don't want you to do math, but at that age, when you're fairly long in your career, did that take a little bit to get used to?
The only thing is, I was FTO'd by some old guys. And I think that helped, because they'd show me, do this or do that, or, everything like that.
Interesting.
It just irritates me. If I listen to the radio and they're talking on the radio and they're having dispatch run something for them, you got a goddamn computer in your car. Don't be lazy. Do it yourself. Maybe that's just the old man coming out in me.
Yeah, right.
But no, I think too is that cops, if they're going to be married, that whole family circle with your kids and everything has got to be strong.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I stayed in Emmett as long as I did is I could pick my kids up from school and I could take them to school. If they got in trouble, I got called, and I was right there.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
No problem. Fun.